All right, we have a surprise reactions. I've held off on reactions, bro, because I've been on the Telltale tour, man. But I had to react to these. It's still related to the Telltale tour, so that's why we got to react to them. Two vids, so there's gonna be a part one and a part two already, just so you know. So yeah, without further ado, oh yeah, good afternoon, good morning, good night, whatever fits you, whatever time, whatever day, time zone you're watching this in. Yeah. Anyway, all right. The Walking Dead, the Telltale Unsolved Mysteries, by my boy Panda Dares. Also, if you want, because he has a string. So as a kid, I played Resident Evil 4. I'm gonna yap here for a bit. As a kid, I played Resident Evil 4, and he has a string of Resident Evil 4 like just like this one, like this video we're about to watch. He has like a string of Resident Evil 4 mysteries. So if you want me to react to him, just let me know in the comments. But I already watched them for my personal. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started on the video we came here for. Sorry for the yap.
Telltale's The Walking Dead is a series notorious for its mysteries and its hypotheticals.
Hold on, let me turn the volume down so it's not echoing. Oh, it kind of is down. Let's turn it. Yeah, let's put it back at 70. 70 should be good. All right. Captain's
Whether
up.
that's an obscure detail that makes no sense, a missing, or the seemingly impossible survival of a particular character. I think we all want an explanation on how exactly Kenny survived the alleyway at the end of Season 1, for instance. As one of my favourite games of all time, I have gathered a compilation of, in my opinion, the most interesting or unusual of these. Some have been widely discussed among the community for years, yet some are so obscure to the point where no one has ever mentioned them. As the oldest game in the series, and to keep this list chronologically precise, I will be primarily focusing on Season 1 for this video, before potentially expanding on subsequent seasons in the future. If there's anything I missed or you felt should have been included, please let me know your personal favourites in the comments because I'd love to hear them. So with that out of the way, let's go on to mystery number 1.
Premium coming soon. YouTube Premium coming soon. Also, I think Larry was still alive because he does breathe. This game is 12 years old, bro. If you haven't played it, just go and play it. There should be at this point, no one should be spoiling this game for you unless you're like a little, unless you haven't played it. I don't know. Anyway, um, but no, if you choose the choice to help Lily and you like start compressing his chest, he starts breathing again. You know what I'm saying? So I think he was still alive, but we'll see. We'll see what this guy says. Let's see what Panda Dares has to say.
No! Dad, come on! Dad!
After discovering the true nature of the dairy farm in episode 2, Lee is knocked unconscious and awakes in their meat locker soon after.
That was so
Overcome
fucked.
the rage, Larry has a fatal heart attack while trying to break the door down, and we're suddenly forced into a dilemma. Do we console Lily and give Larry CPR, or do we instead team up with Kenny and smash his face in?
That was fucked up too. To be held back and have to watch that. I'm
Understandably,
sorry.
Kenny fears for the safety of Clementine and is prioritizing reaching his family above anything else. In the heat of the moment, he launches a salt lick off of his head to prevent him from turning. In his eyes, it was too dangerous to keep him alive and was immediately apologetic afterwards. Ultimately, this begs the question if Larry was still alive at this moment, and would he have survived to the meat locker if Kenny hadn't intervened? This mystery has sparked massive debate and is the most prominent on this list, so we need to start from the very beginning and go through the evidence on both sides before giving my conclusion at the end. If, like me, you've both played Season 4 and naturally just hate Lily and by extension her dad, it's an easy choice to make. In this case, this mystery is nullified before it has even begun, only when we choose to give
I mean, yeah, because in this testing, but if you recall in my playthrough, I even gave Larry food and he still was like mean to me. I'm like, damn, I fed you and you were still bogus to me, bro. So yeah, pretty easy choice. Don't blame me if you didn't save him. So a lot of people probably didn't. I don't think a lot of people did. If we go back and watch the video, a lot of people probably didn't save him. If we watch the choices at the end.
Larry's CPR, can we notice a very important detail in support of Larry's survival? He opens his mouth to breathe right before he dies. This proves without any doubt that Larry was still alive at least, which isn't really a surprise. But would he have survived much longer without medicine or a doctor? Let's just start by saying that
And that's
CPR
another thing, because remember when he had his spill, um, at the pharmacy, we had to get the medicine to help him, but he was on the ground in there until we got the medicine to him. You know what I'm saying? Until it was time to leave. So that's a good point to make. Well, even if he did survive, how long would he have survived without medicine? I never thought about that. Oh,
isn't necessarily classified as a treatment, more so an emergency measure to keep blood pumping around the body, preferably by mimicking a heart-like rhythm until an
right.
ambulance arrives.
Yeah.
Although Larry was visibly breathing, it was most likely laboured gasps as his body made a last-ditched effort to survive, and not a
Okay.
result of Lee's desperate attempt to resuscitate him.
Okay.
Many people, including myself, have
Okay, I can see that being too, because my case was that he was still breathing if you do help her. But that could be his last. Yeah, that could be it too. Maybe he wasn't alive. I don't know.
compared his heart attack in the meat locker to that at the drugstore in episode 1. This one was much more dangerous than the first, but can be used as evidence against Larry's chance of survival, even with all the medicine in the world. As mentioned by Katja in episode 1, Larry needed nitroglycerin tablets. These are typically symptom relief medications for acute coronary syndrome or other related diseases, but are rarely administered for fatal heart attacks. Aspirin is also a preventative measure and wouldn't have helped much in this situation. The equipment that the St. John's had outside Mark's room were close by, sure, but it was specifically used for keeping their victims alive amid blood loss or serious injuries, things like morphine, saline, and IV
The stuff they
tubes,
needed,
none of
right?
which could have
Yeah.
been used to help him. Evidently, the only way to save him was by performing emergency surgery. I can safely say that Larry would have never received this treatment, even if he somehow did manage to make it out of the meat locker alive. On the other hand, even massive heart attacks vary in intensity and duration. Generally speaking, it's unlikely for the heart to stop completely within the first hour. According to the data that I found, I will conclude that Larry's chances of surviving this attack, accounting for his age, were around 3% in my opinion, but I could be wrong.
3%. Damn, bruh. I don't know. Yeah, because like we said, CPR is only preventative measure. We could have got him back up, but then how long did you survive without medicine? You know what I'm saying? In the long term, we don't have access to medicine, and on top of that, we got to go fight, bruh. Like we're gonna bust out of like think about. I'm getting really in detail because I played this game, and I don't care. I'm gonna yap. But bro, you got to think. We got to go fight. We got to go fight people now, and you're like if you're like this now, like imagine how you're gonna be during the fight. So that's another thing to think about too. Even if he does make it out of the locker, is he able to fight? Does he lose a fight to one of the St. John's? Does he get caught up by a walker in the midst of all the drama going on? Because his heart, that's another thing to think about.
And with that, I'll move on to some fan speculations. Someone correctly pointed out that Larry's mouth movement wasn't a positive sign. This could have just been agonal respiration, which is known to occur during cardiac arrest, ultimately delaying Larry's inevitable death momentarily until he received immediate help, which we already know wasn't coming. It's also theorized that Kenny's swift actions
That's
saved
fucked
the lives
up
of every person in
to
that
say it
room
like
because
that,
Larry was already dead
but
at
it's
that
truth.
moment, and like every other walker, the mouth movement was an early sign of reanimation. It's weird because Lily explicitly tells us that Larry has stopped breathing before we've even performed CPR.
When real lime juice meets sea salt,
YouTube Premium coming soon,
Cruz
bruh.
Blanca.
Dream fearlessly!
Damn,
Protect your family's dreams under
I
our
can't
roof.
skip?
American Family Insurance.
Is he breathing at all?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, let me take over. Keep checking his pulse.
If this were a real life situation, I would side with Kenny and hold Lily back for this
Yep.
very reason. We know the speed of which someone can turn, depending on your choices in the same
Just
episode.
grab her.
Either David or Travis turn
remember
almost
that.
immediately after succumbing to blood loss. If this doesn't convince you, in episode 3 there's a secret death scene where you fail to convince Kenny that Doc is about to die. He throws you back outside, and when you go back to check on him, he's already killed Clementine. Very disturbing stuff.
out.
In conclusion, I always side with Kenny on this one, and it's not even close. Larry was probably alive, yet would have died very horribly had we not put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
On top of that, he tried to kill us at the drugstore after we literally risked our lives to
We
get
gotta get our get back for that, right? I don't feel we gotta get our get back for that. He literally punched you in the face and left you for dead. If Kenny had not came and got you back, bro, you would have been like lunch meat. Like, nah, fuck Larry.
medicine, and is consistently
Larry.
just a horrible person despite any attempt to treat
yeah,
him with
like, I get booed.
respect throughout episodes 1 and 2.
Please.
I mean, oh,
While we were busy celebrating Larry's death for 5 minutes straight, another weird occurrence took place.
The only thing I think of is in the midst of everything, when the brothers locked everyone up, they probably just put his ass in the room or something and didn't see. I don't know, because then because that begs the question. I know this is going, so that begs the question. Then how did he get out of the room? You know what I'm saying? Maybe they didn't secure it. I don't know, because he's legless. So I don't
Right
know.
next door. An unknown mystery coincides with this one that has left me scratching my head for many years. This is the real mystery of episode 2 in my opinion because of how ambiguous and uncanny it is. Once again, I will give an overview of events leading up to this point to present this mystery as clearly as possible before discussing it further. At the beginning of episode 2, we are introduced to a character called Mark, a new member of the group and friend of Lee's. After being ambushed by bandits at the dairy farm, the St. Johns deliberately turn on the electric fence to prevent us from leaving. It was a setup. Although Lee makes it out safely, Mark gets hit in the shoulder with an arrow before Brenda St. John takes him inside to treat it. Unfortunately, this is essentially the last time we ever see Mark alive because we're constantly shunned, ignored, or given weird excuses every time we ask to see him.
Yeah.
How's Mark doing in there?
Best patient I ever had. Oh, my boys get so much as a
his
scratch
legs
and
off,
start
bruh.
hollering. He could definitely teach them a thing or two about being tough.
I'd still like to check on him.
You're gonna have to trust me on this, Lee. I've helped stitch my share of wounds. I know what I'm talking about. Everybody sit down. Now go get the meal. Oh, this is a delight.
I could eat a horse. Where's Mark?
Now don't you worry about him. I've already brought some food up. You just let him rest.
Our suspicions increase. The tension builds up until we discover their true intentions. Now for the weird part. After Lee confronts the St. Johns about what they did to Mark, he falls down the stairs in a last-ditched effort to save himself. He is minutes away from
He's
death
beyond
at this
saving,
point and
yeah.
cannot be kept alive for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. Now, when we break out of the meat locker and make our way back to the house to save Katja, Mark is now back upstairs, not alive but as a walker. Needless to say, the amount of questions I have are enormous, so let's go over them. Firstly, Mark was in no condition to climb back up the stairs himself. We can automatically assume that the St. Johns dragged him back to the secret room after they knocked us out. But that doesn't explain how Mark was able to escape a second time, presumably.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but also, if he's a walker, why didn't they just? I don't know. If you know he's not gonna be alive long, like after all that, bro, why didn't you just put him out of his misery? Why'd you leave him alive? Type. That's a mystery. Okay.
While he was still alive because they'd shoot him otherwise. It would have also been reckless to leave a potential walker stranded in your home without locking a near-dead Mark in a room somewhere. But because of their idiotic decisions, Mark kills an unsuspecting Brenda near the top of the staircase in a poetic act of vengeance. I will say in their defense that Brenda was in an overtly panicked situation, thus her
Hold on, bruh. I gotta see something really quick. Just make sure I'm recording. Just make sure I'm recording. All right, let's go.
short-term memory would have been reduced significantly. Her younger, stronger sons were likely those who took Mark back, in the process failing to inform Brenda about where exactly they hid him. So we can rationalise how exactly Mark got back upstairs and that Brenda wasn't made aware of his presence. But we still don't know why on earth Andrew and Danny kept him around. Failed to lock him up even though they knew he was going to die very soon. Was there another reason behind this? A possible theory is that the St. Johns didn't yet know the full extent of the disease, specifically that everyone is infected and will turn quickly into walkers after death. I've mentioned Danny's partial knowledge regarding this fact, but at no point does he say, "You turn if you die." He says it passively when questioned about cannibalism. It's as if he doesn't have the first-hand experience of watching people turn, like we have for example. Thus, what happened to Mark was due to ignorance and nothing malicious. Of course, there's still the disturbing possibility that Mark's death was intentional. Both Andrew and Danny are
That would also make sense. I'm going back to when he said that like Danny they didn't know about like the turning effect. Just no matter how you die, excuse me, or how you're unalive, is that you got to think I don't think Ben was ever, besides in the few like first scenes, Ben never talked to them though. Like, we were never in that same room, so that conversation would have never came up, you feel me, is what I'm getting at, is because Ben was never there. So like the conversation of how we met Ben, what happened at the Motel Inn, exactly, what I'm saying, how they turned, like that would have never came up because Ben was never there, and we never thought of that, what I'm saying, because Ben wasn't there. And other stuff started happening, of course. So I don't know, I wasn't thinking about that, but now I kind of do think about that. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe that's why they didn't take care of Mark, what I'm saying? Maybe they didn't know, and they thought that they could just keep using him for meat, with their sick asses like they were, cannibals. But yeah, okay, makes sense to me.
Honestly, some of the creepiest people I've ever seen, and it's only elevated every time we interact with them. From Danny's weird
They are weird.
one-liners
Yeah, they're weird.
Good one.
to Andrew's face in this one scene as he tries to kill us.
Yeah, his
It's
face went
horrific.
murder.
Let me know your thoughts on this one because
When you shop in the Jewel Osco app,
YouTube
you
Premium
can count on
coming
us to
soon.
choose fresh produce, guaranteed.
the longer I even think about what they could have had in store for us and Mark, the worse I feel.
Listen, I'm not much for
Oh,
goodbyes.
yeah.
Tell the others for me.
Oh yeah, and just because it's Molly starting off, oh yeah, because she's a badass character that should have stayed. And once he gets to her, I'm gonna yap a bit about her.
Sure. You take care of yourself, Molly.
You too, Lee.
Taking a step back from the convoluted side of things, I want to talk more about the missing characters of Lee's group. People that have either left completely, or characters that are presumed dead but can be argued otherwise. Starting from as early as Clementine's house, these side characters are temporarily introduced to Lee and ourselves before leaving forever, and to this day we have absolutely no idea what happened to them. Chet and Sean are the first survivors that we find. We all know what happens to Sean, and to this day I still try and save him, even though it's impossible. Chet, on the other hand, is one of the most mysterious characters in the game. If we leave Clementine's house at night, Chet will already be dead, and we're introduced to someone completely different who I'll talk about later. Only when we leave in the morning can we talk to him alive.
We left
He
in the
says
morning.
one sentence, jumps in the back of Sean's car on the way to Herschel's farm, awkwardly says goodbye and walks home to his mum's. That's the last time we ever see him, making him one of the few unknown sub-characters who may or may not have survived much longer.
Hey, Sean, I'm gonna run on home. My mom was gonna be in a snit.
No sweat, man. I'll catch you tomorrow night.
Well, not really, because we assume on the run home to his house, he probably gets bit or something, and he has to go home. And then tomorrow comes, but we don't see him come to the farm. That's another thing too, because what he just said. He said, "I'll see you tomorrow," but we were there. You know what I'm saying? We woke up in the morning time. Sean got okay. Maybe Chet could have came after we left, but that means he would have saw Sean, deceased. But though we assume this, right? I assume at least that after this scene that Chet, since we left at day, it's now nighttime, that he goes and gets bit, you know what I'm saying? And maybe by whatever time, hours later, he's probably already turned and lurking by Clementine's house or wherever that's at, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I assume happened to Chet after this scene. If you leave it day.
Most people share the opinion that I have, and it's that Chet doesn't seem aware or smart enough to have even survived the walk home. We already know that he dies the very same night if we just wait at Clementine's house a little longer, so it's likely that he wouldn't have reached his mother's house, as cynical as it may sound. He also makes the reckless decision to walk home through the street at night.
And you gotta peep it. Oh, I'm gonna try to go back here. Look at all this fog. Like you gotta think too. And just playing for 400 days, right? Like remember we were playing Wyatt and all that fog. Like walkers were coming up, we could barely see them. Like why? You know what I'm saying? You got to think. Why would you do this? It's nighttime. You have safety right here for the night, right? You have your friend's house, so let you stay the night. You have vehicles, you have weapons, but you choose to walk away to the fog. You know what I'm saying? I never I didn't think of this as a kid playing it. You know what I'm saying? But now, like looking from an analytical perspective, this makes no sense. Like dude said, you're not smart enough or you're not aware of like what's entirely going on.
The reckless decision to walk home through the street at night. I would do exactly what he did and abandon the group to reach a family member, but I'd ask for a lift first or maybe stay the night and walk home in the morning.
Exactly.
Evidently, he didn't know the seriousness of the situation, and that's what does, or will, depending on your choice, cost him his life. If he did make it home, then it's anybody's guess. I will only say that his best chance to survive in the long term would have been to find another group. Andre Mitchell is a police officer and Chet's replacement if you decide to travel at night. Ironically, we know even less about him and his fate after dropping us off at the farm, but he is a very nice person overall and gives his condolences to Sean about his friend's passing, even refusing to shoot him back at Clementine's house. As an
Fellow
armed
brother.
police officer with a car, he would have been better equipped to have survived in the short term, unlike Chet, and for that reason I'd like to believe that he's still alive. To my knowledge, he's the only sub-character in the series that can be avoided completely. I didn't even know that this guy existed until my 5th or 6th playthrough, and I love little details like that. I will talk briefly about Glenn because we all know what happened to him. He mentions a group in Atlanta at the end of episode 1 and leaves to help them. It's here where he allows Rick to escape the tank, so it was worth it. Especially knowing what happens to the Mortar Inn in subsequent episodes, he made a good decision. It's funny to think—
I always thought that was cool. Like when I was playing this as a kid, because my older brother put me on the game, and he was like, "Yeah, Glenn left this game, and they put him in the show." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, Glenn's in the show," and I was like, "What?" I was like so shocked by it. It is cool that they took him and put him on the show, but we know his ultimate fate, so.
that because Lee saved Glenn, which led to Glenn saving Rick, Lee indirectly saved Rick's life.
For those in the market for flavor, there's Modelo Spiked Aguas Frescas, hibiscus, cucumber.
Although I do think that even though like I see what he's getting at, and that Glenn winning the show and all that stuff happened with Negan, but I do think that it should still be separate, like a separate universe, because this is technically like I don't know. Is Lee ever mentioned? I haven't watched the show all the way down. I know like certain stuff happens. Negan. I know key characters, but like, is Lee ever mentioned? Like, are any of the Telltale series Walking Game people ever mentioned in the show? If they are, shit, let me know in the comments because I didn't know. So.
Molly is a fan favourite of the series, loved for her athleticism and for being the first to strategically diverge walkers effectively, on a large scale at least.
Yes.
She joins the group at the coast while Lee and Kenny search for non-existent boats. After a rocky start, we learn more about the city, more about the community that she was with previously until she was kicked out for concealing her sister's illness. She helps us retrieve items from said community, which has since collapsed entirely, in exchange for a spot on the—
And I got a piece to say about her, like I said, but I'm gonna wait till he gets done with her, then I'm gonna go in.
boat we eventually find. Despite all of this, she unexpectedly leaves one night without telling anyone. Lee consoles her at the staircase and makes sure she's content with her decisions. They hug and say goodbye, and with that she's yet another entry on the small list of unknown characters. Here are the theories on what could have happened to her. Since she's extremely adept and resourceful due to being a scavenger for many months, we can say with confidence that she would have survived long after the events of Season 1. Especially after the fall of Crawford, she would have kept using the bells, and she would have found a way to fortify the walls if she needed to. Or she would have just infiltrated it at will whenever she needed food or water. The only danger of hers were other people. But Savannah is a city, and although I agree with Kenny over Lily no matter what the argument is, his decision to enter a city was a stupid one, and I doubt that any other group after the events of Season 1 would have made that same mistake. It's almost common knowledge, and in Kenny's defense, he did have a really good reason to come here.
I was gonna say we had a boat, we had a plan, but shit didn't work out. All of the boats were gone, but we did find another boat, so that's why we went into a city, though. So we'll defend Kenny on that too.
Extremely lucky, but it still wasn't enough. What I'm saying is, Molly would have been fine, and she would have been alone for many years until she left Savannah herself. Now for a more upsetting theory, and the worst part is, I believe this one to be true. Now, when Lee asked why she was leaving, her response was vague at best, giving little explanation for her sudden change of heart.
I just wanted to say thanks for everything. It's been fun.
Whilst speculating about why this is, why she went through with all of the effort, was previously adamant about coming with us, almost aggressive at times, I found only one possibility with the help of Reddit. She's already bitten.
Yeah, because it was weird to me, like you just said, how she was so aggressive on getting a boat. She mentions it multiple times about she's getting on the boat with us, and then all of a sudden at the end she just flips out and then says, "No, I'm not coming with." And I was like, what? That was always weird to me, no matter what, because it's like, how did you do a whole—
This likely occurred after she temporarily split up with Lee on the garage roof. She later rejoins us in school, and from this point forth doesn't mention anything regarding her willingness to stick around or leave Savannah. She's holding a picture of her sister and has some blood on her face. Once again, she tenaciously avoids the question, so we don't know why exactly she left with the battery. All we know is that she probably got bit while looking for her sister's photograph on the way back. I doubt that was her only reason, however. Back at the house, she initiates a hug and says some kind words before
Which she's
leaving
never done
forever.
before.
You can argue that she's just being nice in this scene, but it's suddenly more upsetting and fitting if we connect it with the bite theory. Pay attention to her face as she walks down the stairs and the expressions of her voice, and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I've been thinking it over. It's not for me. Sounds like it'd be pretty crowded, and I never did like the water.
You sure about this?
I'm sure. I've always done better on my own anyhow.
But she looks sad. Look at her. That's crazy. Is he? Nah, that's not. No. So okay, now that he's done with Molly, few things. I think that she's bit. I think she got bit or something because and for reason and here's why. There's a few endings to Molly, right? So the one he showed is when everything ends peacefully and she just leaves. In that same scene where you see her drop down, there like or no. There's a scene where walkers break in and like you have to shoot the walkers off of her. We did it in my playthrough. And if you don't shoot the walkers, they do straight up just bite her in her arms. And like if you stand there and don't shoot, they do just like bite her in her arms, you know what I'm saying? And then she runs away because you're not helping her. She runs away from us and you never see her again. That's one way she can leave. The next, if you do shoot, but you like kind of shoot her, she runs away too because she gets shot. I think she gets shot. Either she gets shot and runs away because you're shooting her, or she gets bit. She gets shot and then she gets bit and then she runs away because of that. So that's why it's not too far-fetched that she gets bit because that's already how her story ends in a different way. Next, in episode 5, if Molly was still there, right? We didn't hear a damn bell in episode 5 and we were there all day. I want to say all morning. We were out all morning. Oh no, it was all day and we didn't hear one bell. Now granted we went further into the city, but still, I just think it's weird because that was her way of getting around town, and like it was really hard to get around. You know what I'm saying? We didn't hear one bell from her all day, and we went around. That's what I'm saying. We went around the city. We were moving through the city. We didn't just stay in that house. We moved all through the city, and we didn't hear one bell like we did with her. To put it in perspective, when we got off the train on episode 3, we had one bell when we got off the train, and then even later, I think we heard another bell when me and Kenny went down to the port or whatever to look for his boat. That's what I'm saying. So she was using the bell, like what's the word I'm looking for here? She was using the bell like pretty consistently, and all like she was always using it because she was using it consistently, and then all of a sudden it just stops. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not opposed to her maybe turning. I don't think she would have, done anything to herself. I just think that maybe she turned, or maybe she left the city. Maybe she left the city. But then again, I'm more for the turn scenario, just because it's already shown to us in the thing. She looked sad as hell when she was walking away. You know what I'm saying? And then her sudden change of heart. It's weird. It's weird. So. And I don't care about that yap.
Oh yeah, there's also the cancer survivor group that stole the boat. For all I care, I hope that Kenny hid a bomb in the engine and Lee died immediately after leaving. Imagine doing that to Clementine, leaving her all alone in a populated city so you can ride off into the sunset with her.
Another thing I was gonna say, had Molly stayed, her and Clementine would have been like a badass like duo. Like imagine like Molly with Clementine, like it just would have been badass. And then like the older Clementine got like she had Molly, shit would have been badass. It would have been badass. But we didn't get it. We didn't get just something I just wanted yapped about. So.
Boat. Not even the biggest villains in the series would do something like this.
What's going on? And bumped around. No, they're in the 400 days. I think he's going to cover that later. They're in the 400 days, though. Post that, yeah, in 400 days, the group mentioned they've lost Vernon in the boat. Most likely, this means he stole the boat and took off or died along with it. Yeah, they don't explain to it, but I think Lloyd, or Boyd, I can't remember his name, but in one of the sister story in 400 days, he explains this. He says that, the shit with Vernon, it wasn't us, it didn't work out, or something, they lost the boat or something. I don't know. They didn't go into detail, though. So we know that doesn't work out, though. We know that Vernon doesn't make it.
Huh?
Oh, yeah, fuck Ben.
I was the one giving the bandits supplies.
Fuck Ben.
What?
He puts everyone in danger, 100%. I can
I
tell you
think
that
we've
just
all
looking at
asked
it.
ourselves why anyone in Lee's group thought it was a good idea to keep this detriment to life, the biggest liability in video game history around at all,
Literally.
especially after he indirectly caused the death of nearly everyone in episode 3 and beyond. This is more of a
Literally.
hypothetical rather than a mystery, but it's such an important topic that it deserves a thorough discussion anyway, and I would even expand on this and make a whole video about Ben in the future. First, I want to make up a scenario on the outcome of Lee's group, and by extension, the events of Season 1 as a whole, if Ben didn't exist, or if he had died in the forest at the beginning of episode 2 before cursing the lives of everyone he ever came into contact with. I suppose we can start with the first of his indirect deaths, Larry. Even though this was mostly Kenny's fault, and Ben's information regarding walkers was correct, Kenny would have never done this to Larry without knowing this information.
Remember what Ben said. Gotta destroy the brain.
Essentially, Larry had a small chance to survive the heart attack and could have survived long after Season 2 if Ben wasn't around. I do completely acknowledge that the St. John incident probably would have occurred anyway, but it's also entirely possible that if David didn't step in a modified bear trap, they wouldn't have followed the trail of blood back to the Mortar Inn disguised as unsuspecting friendlies just looking for food. The division between Lily and Kenny would have been alleviated immensely if this never happened. She wouldn't have snapped
Yeah,
and killed
R.I.P.
Carly.
Hey, R.I.P. Carly. Fuck Lily. R.I.P. Carly with the strap. She was better than you, Lily. Fuck you.
Doug, and the altercation with the bandits would have never happened, so Duck and Katja would still be alive, everyone would have been peaceful at the Mortar Inn for the foreseeable future. Eventually, Kenny would have followed through on his plan to head towards the coast, but this time we would have had the option to join him and his family, or to remain in Macon with Lily, Carly and Clementine. Depending on the choice, Lee's story would have looked much different, with fewer people like Duck and Ben to worry about, who I don't care about in the slightest, let's be honest, and without the constant power struggles, the longevity of the group would have improved. In summary, Ben has the blood of nearly every dead character from Season 1 on his hands because they literally all circle back to him. Larry, Carly, Doug, Duck, Katja, Chuck, and Bree, who I hate, so props to Ben on that one. He almost kills Clementine on several occasions, almost kills Molly, and maybe caused her
He
to
lets
get
the walk.
bit.
Yeah, when he was. This is what I was talking about with the scene with Molly earlier. When he lets the walkers in, Ben is a liability, dude. He's a fucking liability.
Depending on if you agree with that theory, and if it was in fact this particular walker who bit her instead. He kills himself and Kenny in the process. Theory number 5 coming up. And lastly, because he wouldn't listen to Lee's advice and keep an eye on Clementine, she gets kidnapped and Lee gets bit. What an idiot.
That fucking...
And besides that, there was another time when in episode 3 is either episode 3 when you first come out of the train, Ben they're cornered. Ben and Clementine are. You told Ben to save Clementine. He runs away. I remember that shit. Like Ben is a piece of shit. Fuck Ben.
Shitbird Ben.
But yeah, he is right. He has blood on his hands. I'm gonna get into this too a bit.
So how did Kenny escape the alleyway in Season 1? If we let Ben die at the clock tower, there's another path which is slightly different. In this one, Krista jumps into a dark room to pick up the radio after we drop it. Kenny then jumps down to save her before being swarmed by walkers. He then fires his last couple of bullets before going silent. I will primarily focus on the alleyway scenario for this mystery because the dark room is both spacious and easily traversable with doors and obstacles. Even after playing this path for the first time, I knew that Kenny would survive it, which is the opposite of how I felt in the Ben scenario. From examining the environment in this scene, there's nothing that immediately sticks out as a possible escape point that Kenny could have used to his advantage. The window.
But can you? See, now that might cause splinters. Do you think that maybe he could have? It's just wood, though, no? And again, it's like probably it's a different kind of wood. Do you think maybe he could have punched the window out? And that's the thing, we can't see are all these windows boarded up. You know what I'm saying? We only see this one's boarded up. We can't assume. You know what I'm saying? We can't even see we can kind of see these two. We can't even see these two down here. So we can't assume they're all boarded up. And then what about I think he went over this one, but what about these ones over here, nah? Because Kenny could have, I don't know, no, then you would have seen him. Then there's nowhere else to go. I don't know. There's a ledge right here. See, that's what I'm saying. He could have maybe, I don't know, do you think he could have climbed out there? I don't know. There's some escape routes here besides this. There's some escape routes I could see options of. You know, we don't see these two windows. We don't see what's actually inside of them. Damn, come on now.
Windows on the left are boarded up, and we would have heard Kenny break them if he decided to climb in. The
That's
windows
true.
on
We
the
would have.
right
Yeah,
are
that's true.
dark, but they also look like they cannot be opened by hand. Again, I think the only way for Kenny to escape through these windows was if he broke them, and we hear nothing loud besides the last bullet he used on Ben. There's a theory that he pulled a Glen and somehow hid underneath Ben's body or a bin. I disagree with this entirely, as Ben's body was nailed into the floor, so Kenny
He
couldn't
couldn't have
have
hid under
maneuvered
him.
beneath him in a way that could cover even 20% of his body. The bins are also way too small and full for him to use. It's also against Kenny's personality to hide, so for those reasons I believe the following theory to be correct. Let's pay close attention to both sides of the alleyway. The side closest to Ben is long, has about 50 walkers, and would have been impossible to break through.
Cause these just like glass. Could he not, like punch this out? Maybe he might hurt his hand. Could he not have used his shoulder? I don't like. I don't know. Maybe could he like climb up it? I don't know. These look like just glass. Like these aren't boarded up, bro. That's what I'm saying. And then if it's not too hard. If you pick up the trash can and just like these walkers aren't smart, bro. If you're stronger than them, right? You can just walk through them with a trash can. They'll fall. Actually, no, because you got to worry about your feet. Then they're gonna grab you. I don't know. These windows look breakable to me on this side right here.
Admit to that 100%. As strategic as Kenny is, he knew about this and didn't look in that direction. We can see the other side in this shot here. Although there are still a lot of walkers, the main road is only about 10 meters away. This was his only chance to push through. Look at this next scene also. He shuts the gate on Lee and takes one more look at his window of opportunity, as to say, I'm about to do this. Now for the execution. There are 8 walkers on the side he needs to push through. First, he takes out 2 of them. Notice as he's about to shoot Ben, there's a gap right here. He then uses his last bullet on Ben to distract the walkers from the dangerous side, and it's at this point he belts it down the alleyway. Lee is now climbing the ladder, so we cannot see Kenny run past us, we only hear 3 thuds.
To remind you that 60% of sales on Amazon come from independent sellers. Tracy from Lilies of Charlotte.
These were the last walkers that were in Kenny's way before he made it to the main road and to safety. After Lee climbs the ladder, we see Krista looking down. Omid said earlier that he couldn't see anything from
That's another thing too. I watched a video back in the day, like when this shit first came out. Before you go down, and you can you can go back and look at my gameplay. Lee tells Krista to like be on the lookout. You know what I'm saying? Like they could have told us walkers are coming, they didn't respond. You know what I'm saying? And Krista couldn't tell me like what happened to Kenny. It's like what? So what were you guys looking at then? What were you what were you on the lookout looking at? You guys didn't tell us walkers were gonna corner us. You know what I'm saying? When we were all down there, you didn't give us a warning. Then it's on top of that. If you were truly looking at it, you couldn't tell me what happened to Kenny. You know what I'm saying? I get the area got crowded, but you should have still been able to see him. You know what I'm saying? Like he should have stuck out. One, he has a hat on. You know what I'm saying? Two, he's probably moving faster than the walkers, right? Whatever he's doing, he's sticking out. You know what I'm saying? Because the walkers are moving in one motion, one way. He's moving quicker. He's moving faster. You know what I'm saying? So like it boggles this scene boggles my mind because it's like, damn, Krista. So what were you looking at? What were you and Omi doing up here? You know what I'm saying?
Up here, and Krista confirms this by asking Lee to confirm if we saw them die. She couldn't see anything either.
Ow.
In season 2, we're given some clarification on what
sense.
happened following his escape. Sarita met him in a diner, and his beard was even longer than what it is in season 2. He said that after Savannah, he was all over the place for a while before settling down at the lodge. Presumably, he and Sarita were already heading north in search of Wellington around this time. When asked about the alleyway, he only mentions being really lucky. But gathering these pieces of dialogue together, we can create a story of Kenny's events of season 1.5. Before his death, Lee tells Krista and Omid to take custody of Clementine after he passes away. In the final scene, we see Clementine in the outskirts of Savannah where they meet up. But Lee also told Krista and Omid to find the train. I believe that Kenny made his way back to the train first, and this is what he meant by travelling all over after Savannah. Eventually the train broke down or ran out of fuel, so he sought refuge in another small town where he met Sarita. This is just a speculation of course, but it's really interesting to theorize.
Because I feel like one hole in that is, wouldn't Kenny have just come out and said that then? Wouldn't he have just said, hey Clem, so after whatever happened in the city, and I saved that shitbird Ben, I went back to the train and then I just took off. Wouldn't he have said that? Because Clementine was there for the train. Clementine should remember the train very, very well because that's when she got her walkie taken. You know what I'm saying? So that's one hole in that theory is why would he be cryptic? Why wouldn't he just come out and say, hey, you know what I'm saying, I went back to the train? Why would he be all I've just been around?
lies about Kenny's life while he was off camera. Even after season 2, there's still a chance that he lived after the Wellington ending if we split up with him. This is the only ending that leaves a question mark on his name and his possible return to the series.
Yeah, that's true. With the walkers. I don't know about
So
that.
that's all I have for this video.
And before I go on too, going back to the Molly thing too. So let's say, because I don't believe Kenny took the train. I don't think he took the train. I feel like he just would have came out and said that to Clementine. You know what I'm saying? He just would have said I took the train. So maybe Molly, right? So go back to Molly. Maybe Molly, maybe she needed to leave town, right? Maybe she even said fuck Crawford, right? Maybe she even said fuck Crawford. And she was like, I need to leave town. Maybe Molly escaped on the train. You know what I'm saying? There's a theory. I don't know. I could see that. Yeah, I think I'm down to either or. Maybe Molly could escape, because that's my own conspiracy. Is that maybe Molly? You know what I'm saying? Because I think Kenny would have came out. I don't think Kenny escaped by train. He would have said, "Hey, I came out and did this. I went to the train, took that." I think Molly maybe got smart. Said this town is drying up. I've been to every. She even said that in the game. She says I've been to every corner of this town. It's dry. Blah blah blah. Crawford was the only place. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But how long could that really last? Or granted, it was only a day plus. But maybe Molly escaped by train. That's my theory. Molly escaped by train, bro. She's not dead.
Tell me what mysteries or theories you have about season 1. Tell me what you think happened to the 5 missing characters, if you think they're all alive or deceased. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please send them to my email listed on my about page. I may tackle individual mysteries for the...
Alright, bro. I think that's gonna be it for this vid. Yeah, it's gonna do it for now. Peace.